Hare Krishna. So, we've been talking about evolution, and I was saying that actually there isn't, one point is, there is no theory of evolution. A theory of evolution would explain how conscious evolutionists evolved from single-celled animals or inert matter. But material scientists don't know what consciousness is. They don't know where it comes from. They don't know how it works. And they can't know how it works because consciousness is not a material object. They investigate material objects with material qualities like length, mass, charge, velocity, temperature, like that. But consciousness doesn't have any of those things. So consciousness is not actually a material object that they can investigate. Consciousness is the means by which they investigate. So it's like, looking at the world through spectacles. Well, when you look at the world, you won't see your spectacles out there. You have to, in order to investigate the spectacles, you have to take them off and investigate them separately. So similarly, in order to investigate consciousness in an objective, detached way, they would have to take their consciousness off and look at it from a distance. Well, you can't do that. What are you going to look at consciousness with from a distance? It's absurd. That's one point. So, in other words, there isn't a theory of consciousness. There isn't a theory of evolution, because you have to include consciousness, and there is no material understanding of consciousness, and there cannot be a material understanding of consciousness. Okay, so that's the first point. Second point we were discussing, what I'm calling fundamental axiomatic reality. Now, fundamental axiomatic reality, the Sanskrit term is tattva. And Srila Jiva Goswami, our wonderful Acharya, Jiva Goswami, defined tattva as that which is true by experience and you can't deny it. True by experience and you can't deny it. So an example of a tattva, an example of a fundamental axiomatic reality, vision. Vision is true by experience. And you can't, or let's say perception. Perception is true by experience. We perceive, we hear, we smell, we taste, we touch. And you can't deny perception, because if you start denying perception, you assume that somebody else is going to perceive your denial. So the perception is included in the attempt to deny it. It's true by experience, and you can't meaningfully deny it. So it's tattva, or fundamental axiomatic reality. It's one of the things which are basic to whatever we think, whatever we say, whatever we do, including trying to deny that it's the basis of everything. Materialists, they try to deny. Materialists say that perception comes from, it's a byproduct of matter. They say that material scientists, they say that matter is everything, and consciousness is a byproduct of matter. But it's not, it's fundamental. These fundamental axiomatic realities, you can never say where they've come from. You can't describe them. Perception, how do you describe perception? How do you describe vision? How do you describe hearing? You can't describe it. So you can't explain it either. You can't even say what you're talking about. You can't. So, fundamental axiomatic realities, they're indescribable, inexplicable. And Vedic wisdom shows us what they are. So we've got our ability to perceive, our ability to act as well. I act against the physical laws. I stand up, I speak, I express abstract concepts, abstract emotions with arbitrary symbols, letters. They don't, inherently, there's no meaning in a letter. It's just an agreed convention. And then I think about things. Thinking, feeling, willing. Activity of the mind. So these three categories of conscious activity. Perception, purposeful activity, and mental process. These are fundamental. And Vedic wisdom points it out, points these things out. For example, in Srimad Bhagavatam, Kapila Dev, Lord Kapila, he's explaining this in detail. Not only that, okay, perception, but what do I perceive? I perceive the world, I perceive the qualities, the essential qualities of matter. Solid, I see solidity, fluidity, energy, movement, space. These are the fundamental qualities of matter. And they're fundamental. The body depends on them. If I talk about these things, I'm using the solidity of the body, the fluidity of the body. It needs energy, there's movement, and it's all taking place in space. So they're fundamental. And they're more fundamental even, I don't actually see, I see solids, but I don't see solidity. What do I see? I see form. I hear sound. So form, taste, touch, smell, sound. These are also fundamental qualities of matter. Vedic wisdom points it out. So how are you going to explain? They exist systematically, consistently. How are you going to explain them? We can only say, well, they must be present in source. There's no way, because there's no way that you can explain where they come from in terms of anything else that we know. Because they're the means by which we know everything else. They're the basis. It's like, I'll give you an example, a simple example. We know that if you take two numbers and add them, you get the sum of the two numbers. Like, I've got one pen, and here's another pen. And then if I add them together, you get two pens. Now, how do you describe that? You know that. Intuitively, we know about summing. It's an axiom. And to do that, you need numbers. So numbers are axiomatic realities. You can't explain where numbers come from. All we can say is that they're present in source. Okay, now coming down to evolution. Our ability to perceive, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, our ability to think, our ability to act, these things aren't out in midair, hanging in midair. You've got to have a body to accommodate it all. So not only those functions are axiomatic realities, indescribable, inexplicable, but the body itself is part of the scientific process. The body itself is carrying out non-physical functions. Perception is not a physical function. Vision doesn't have length, it doesn't have temperature, it doesn't have charge, it doesn't have velocity. All the things are not physical objects. So the body is carrying out non-physical functions. We act to oppose the physical laws, do something that the physical laws wouldn't do. So the body is facilitating all of that. So the body itself is also a fundamental axiomatic reality. We can't say where bodies come from. The whole theory of evolution, they say evolution is a fact. It's not a fact at all. It's not even a theory. I explained that. So, on the one hand, they say that evolution is a fact, but the fact is, it's not even a theory. Just like evolution of species. Evolution means species are changing all the time. When you talk about species, you're talking about stable units of classification. So it's a contradiction in terms, just there. It's not even a coherent idea, actually. And then, evolution can't be taking place because at least the human species didn't evolve from anything else. You can't make any material explanation of how the human species, specifically evolutionists, how they evolved from everything else, because the body of the evolutionist who's perceiving and acting and thinking is an axiomatic reality. It's supporting the senses. So, So evolution is a contradiction in terms, and you can never come up with a material idea of how evolution takes place. It's a religious belief, actually. Evolution is a religious belief. It's got no foundation in fact, and no foundation in logic or common sense or anything. Hare Krishna.